So I want to thank all of our panelists. We don't have a lot of time. There's an express train here too, which has to keep on time, or at least close to. So we have about 5 minutes for a few questions. And what I might do is just take 2 or 3 quick questions and then ask each panelist in 30 seconds to respond before we break. So who would like to?
I have one question. I guess before coming to Beijing, I read about how Beijing was this, buzzing capital with new art and new music. But going around, I also see that a lot of this innovation is being pushed by Western sources rather than local sources. For example, a lot of galleries are owned by Westerners. A lot of the clubs, like D22, are owned by Western people. Sorry. And I thought that wasn't something I had really thought about. And I guess it makes me concerned that Western consumers and Western critics are driving the direction of new Chinese art. And so I was wondering if there were any thoughts about that.
Take another. No one else? Okay, how about, we did reverse the flow of production and consumption, as I promised at the beginning, but now we have a provocation, and who would like to respond?
I think I can respond a little bit about architecture in a way, because you could say something similar about architecture, where a lot of the images that have been sort of projected throughout the world, since the Olympics, pre-Olympics, has all been sort of done by sort of star architects, global architects, whether they're Europe or America. But what you saw briefly in my slide presentation, the images, are the new generation of young architects who have either been influenced by that generation of architects, global architects, or have been trained in the West, or are here being trained as architects in academia here, being influenced by sort of, again, this global connectivity, which isn't necessarily saying that it's not Chinese in a sense. It's just sort of the openness, I think, and the ability to accept sort of international ideas. And I think this new sort of younger generation of architects are going to start to become empowered here. And I think we're going to start to see a lot more, at least for architecture, a lot more of their work being completed here in China, and then also globally. Like the one example I showed is an architect of about 36 years old is building a tower in Toronto right now. So I think this is just happening for architecture at least, and starting to begin to be influential and exported, I think, globally.
May I speak? Say a few words. Well, Jeffrey mentioned something about architecture. Several years ago, I also did some investigations in Beijing and about architecture, old houses, old religious houses. And I found something interesting, that is, although Beijing now, actually Beijing, there are several Beijings. Not only one Beijing, but Beijing and Beijing and Beijing. You may find that lots of new buildings. Now, Beijing, there are lots of new buildings. But then, if you have a question in your mind, whether Beijing looks like New York? No. Is it like Tokyo? No. Paris? London? No. Beijing looks like itself. Although we can see lots of new buildings, so I feel that there is a kind of psychological structure for the Beijingers. This special structure made people to build new buildings, but a little different from the buildings in other places.
I'll make one quick observation. Your question depends a lot on what you mean by the Western. And if it's a matter of ownership of an enterprise, you might get one answer. If you're talking about the entire process of production of art, the gallery systems, then you can look at a particular segment of it and then identify that process. And in other words, there is no single answer to that question about whether it's Chinese or Western, but the very fact that you're raising a binary question, is this Western or Chinese, you already have some kind of answer in the back of your mind.
I'd like to echo that, but also when bringing up the issue of D22, D22 is obviously modeled off of CBGB's. It's kind of set up the same way, and you walk into it, and if you were in CBGB's in New York City, you would say, oh wow, it's modeled off that. But it's not that. And echoing what Xi said, that it's inflected in a very unique and interesting way that has really nothing to do with CBGB's and has everything to do with Beijing. But it's not a binary. It's an entity that exists in a globalized world. It's a give and take, and it flows in both directions.
So we're going to have to stop now, but I think that this panel has realized some of the things that we've been saying about the relationship between Colombia and China. Colombia has obviously played an important role in the education of very important citizens of China, but at the same time has been involved in a process of exchange that has completely collapsed the ideas of influence, production, consumption, and the like, and we look forward to many, many more years of this kind of productive collaboration and a relationship between us. So thank you very much to all the panelists, and I think we will just take a 10-minute break and be back for the final panel. Thanks so much.